Hi guys, we are the Ethicologist and we do market research specifically for the ethical fashion industry. Just recently we conducted a number of qualitative interviews with ethical fashion brands and the purpose was to really understand what their needs are to grow their brands. And from this data we are creating a marketing strategy for them. But in this video we just wanted to highlight one particular finding to you and share that with you. Just to clarify, the interviews took place in the mostly at the Ethical Fashion Show in Berlin. Some also took place at the Pure exhibition in London and a few online. If you're interested to find out about these brands that were interviewed, the interviews are actually available for you to watch on our YouTube channel, so check them out. So we were able to interview quite a nice group of brands, a varied collection. Some of these you see have been around for a while and they're quite established in their market, and some are complete newbies, just started off. And also within this selection you can see that there is quite a nice variation of types of clothes and fashion. You see there a children's brand, a couple of sort of high-end fashion, some street fashion, unisex brand, and yeah, sort of everyday clothes fashion as well. So it's quite a nice selection. These brands were also connected to quite a few different countries, so that was really good to see a nice collection of nationalities involved. As you can see, most of them are actually European countries, but a few from other parts of the world. I think this is quite a reflection of the ethical fashion industry as a whole. It is very much an international industry. So in this mini video, we just want to look at one particular finding from the research, and that is really looking at the consumer profiles. So what we found was that in this industry, the typical ethical fashion consumer is really quite consistent across the whole sample. She is a 35-year-old woman, sophisticated. She's professional, educated, family orientated. So that's really interesting. You know, despite the variety in design, in style, in nationality, and the type of fashion, with the exception of a small group of brands, the customer profile is almost identical across the whole industry. And what this really means is that the ethical fashion industry is in effect producing fashion for quite a small consumer segment. These consumers do their own research, and they also have the disposable income to pay slightly more than the high street prices. Now this is both good and bad. It's good because obviously it's provided a market for this fashion. But however, because the industry mostly consists of small brands and there's a lack of resources to invest in consumer engagement, the market hasn't really broadened out of this typical consumer or widened that consumer segment. So that is not so good for the industry. There's been great developments in innovations and initiatives in being sustainable, like new fabrics being created, for example. However, there's been very little movement in educating and increasing consumer awareness and engagement. I think this is really key to growing the sustainable fashion industry. But also, it's key for the sustainability, ironically, the sustainability of the sustainable fashion industry. I think the crisis today in the environment is really highlighting that the sustainable fashion industry can no longer afford to be catering just to the informed and converted consumer, but really needs to develop strategies to convert all sectors of consumers. Our consumer research shows that there is a new group of consumers opening up to sustainability, but gaining their custom will require much more strategizing and planning and much harder work than in reaching that market than we have been doing in the past. So really, it's about time for us to really sort of deal with these new consumers that are arising and try and understand who they are. You know, as I said, we've been able to identify different consumer profiles who are opening up to sustainability. Getting to know these consumers, I think, is the first challenge for the industry. So, you know, what kind of information do we have on them? What are their values? You know, what elements of sustainability is most important to these new up and coming potential ethical fashion consumers? So it's really about digging into data we have on these new types of consumer, and really sort of creating strategies around that. So really trying to reach out to these consumers and trying to engage them in becoming sort of becoming active ethical fashion consumers. So understanding the market is key for this industry today, I'd say. What we need to really look at is, you know, who are these different types of new possible sustainable fashion consumers? Who are they? So yeah, how are they buying fashion now? You know, where are they engaging in fashion, and what helps them to engage in fashion? What drives them to buy fashion? And how are they dealing with the lack of sustainability in the fashion market now? You know, what are they doing to be more sustainable? What do they want to do? You know, what are their values, beliefs, and understandings? You know, what angles are they coming into the sustainable fashion industry from, or what angles do they want to come in from? And, you know, how can we engage with them? So these are really some of the questions we need to be answering as an industry, and really digging into to developing these new consumer profiles. Well, thanks guys, thanks for listening. As I said, this is just a little mini report just to give you a little bit of insight into some of our findings. Keep an eye out for others that we'll probably be posting, just to get you guys sort of engaged in these concepts of the market research and the findings from it. All right, thank you.